Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our webinar titled Paperless Dynamics GP with PaperSave. My name is Michael. I'm your host today, and I'm joined by Tammy Bauer from PaperSave, who will actually be taking us through the presentation and the content today. This webinar is specifically focusing for our Dynamics GP clients, so for you, our GP clients. The solution that we're looking at today is PaperSave. It is a add-on to your Dynamics GP solution that actually extends the functionality of your entire GP suite. It's a document management application. We're going to look today at some workflow functionality, focus on invoice automation. But a key point for me is the seamless integration with Dynamics GP. You will see through this presentation how the PaperSave application actually becomes an extension of your entire GP solution. So PaperSave for Professional Advantage is a new solution that we've taken on, although it's definitely not a new product in the market. It is new to PA, and we've partnered with PaperSave to bring this solution to you and to the market, to our clients. A couple of things that we did in the evaluation of a solution to bring around document management and AP automation and workflow for GP was looking for a partner that we could work with well. We were looking for a genuinely integrated solution, because there is a difference between solutions that can integrate and solutions that genuinely do integrate. And you'll see today how seamless the PaperSave solution is within your GP application. We also wanted to make sure that that we could localize the solution, and we've been working well with PaperSave to make that happen, who have been excellent through the process to fine-tune a few things for us, so we're able to, and we're ready to actually bring this solution to our Australian clients, certainly here today. This webinar is a follow-up to a series of seminar events that we did in multiple cities over the last couple of months, and the feedback we received during those seminars was fantastic. This solution and this functionality is certainly resonating well with a lot of organisations that are already using GP. So if you missed that seminar, then you're in for a real treat. If you were at the seminar, then we're going to cover a lot of the things that we did on the seminar, but of course in this webinar style here for you as well. So you get a little bit of a refresher on that. Before we actually kick off and start today, just a couple of very small logistical items. We're going to allow a few minutes at the end of the session to answer some questions. So if you have a question, on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar panel, just type that question in at any time during the session, and we'll come back to those questions at the end of the presentation today and answer those. If we can't get to all of them, don't worry, we will follow them up individually and get you a response. So please just type your questions in as you have them. We will be recording this session for you. At the conclusion of the session, so within the next couple of days, we'll actually send out a thank you email. In that email will be a link to the recording that you can actually watch again, or even forward around to someone else within your organisation that you think might be interested. On that note, I want to introduce Tammy Bauer. Tammy is from PaperSave and has joined us today to do the webinar. Tammy actually came to Australia for us to do the seminars recently, and has been working with the team ever since in terms of following up clients that are interested in continuing conversations around PaperSave. Tammy's also been instrumental in helping PA with our readiness to take on the solution. So the PaperSave solution, we are partnering with PaperSave, but we are taking this solution on ourselves, and we'll be fully implementing and supporting it here from Australia, and working very closely with PaperSave along the way. Tammy's a senior account manager with PaperSave, joined way back in 2007. I'm not trying to make that sound too dramatic there for you, Tammy, but certainly working in the industry and working around accounts payable and automation in particular for a number of years. So I'm referencing that for experience, Tammy, that's all. So I'd like to hand over to Tammy and welcome her to the webinar this morning to take you through an overview of the PaperSave solution. Thanks, Tammy.
So thank you for the introduction. I appreciate that. And it's been a pleasure working with PA, and we're going to get started. We've got a lot to cover today. So before I jump into the software, I do want to cover a few things because it's important for you to understand the underlying structure of PaperSave, if you will. PaperSave is one piece of software, but it really has three components: document management, workflow, and automation. Document management is really the core of the software. It's the capturing, the storing, the retrieving, the security, and the retention around the documents that support your data inside of Dynamics GP. Today, we're going to focus on the accounts payable portion of PaperSave as it relates to document management, workflow, and automation. But one of the things that I do like to point out is that PaperSave is fully integrated throughout Dynamics GP. These are the different transactions and cards inside of GP that we integrate with. So when you talk about document management, capture, storage, retrieval, security, you're going to be able to take anything that goes into a filing cabinet or in a filing folder out on the network drive and actually associate it to the transactions inside of Dynamics GP. Security is also driven inside of the document management area. And we'll talk about that and how you can set security around different things that people can and cannot do or see within the system. And just like document management, the next piece of PaperSave is the workflow. Workflow is that routing of a document for approval or review. And just like document management, you can create a workflow around any of our integration points that we have inside of Dynamics GP. Now, today, we are going to focus on the accounts payable, but when you think of approval or reviewing documents, even though we're going to talk and show an invoice being routed, imagine routing a contract for renewal or an employee's review or vendor onboarding or whatever it might be. You can accomplish that throughout PaperSave and its workflow. This workflow that I'm showing you today is one of our templates. PaperSave has been around for a long time. We have many, many clients using PaperSave. So what we've been able to do is build these templates that allow our customers to deploy workflows very quickly out of the box. Our templates can be used right out of the box. They can be modified. You can even create workflows from scratch. But this is considered a 5-step workflow. There's 5 potential boxes or routes that a document can take. And there's 2 levels of approval within this workflow. Ultimately, everything ends up in accounts payable. But you can see that there are forks in the road because there's some decision making that can happen in a workflow. For instance, when a document lands in a manager's inbox, PaperSave workflow inbox, they have the ability to approve and reject. But there's a fork in the road when they hit approve because you can set up rules inside the workflow that will automatically route a document in one direction versus another. For instance, this workflow rule is around the dollar amount. So when a document, an invoice lands in a manager's inbox, if the dollar amount of that invoice exceeds their threshold, well, they don't have to make any decision about that. When they hit the approve button, it's going to go right over to the director if it exceeds their value of that threshold. If it's within the threshold, it's going to go to the director. There's all different types of workflow rules that you can have. This is just one example. So workflow, just like document management, is fully integrated throughout all of our integration points, so you can really route any type of document for approval or review. The third piece of PaperSave is transaction automation. Transaction automation is a fancy term for eliminating manual data entry. And it actually has two parts. The first part happens upon the capture. And remember, capturing a document is part of document management, right? So whether you're scanning a document, you're dragging and dropping a document, we're monitoring an email address that you've set up, or you've created a document in Word that you need to get routed for an approval. Initial create box is how the documents get in. And once the documents are captured, the first part of that transaction automation happens. It's called OCR, Optical Character Recognition. And when we capture that document in PaperSave, we're looking for the vendor name, the street address, and the phone number. Those are the three fields that we're looking to your GP data to populate. They're called profile fields in PaperSave, to populate the vendor name. Behind the scenes, it's vendor ID, the dollar amount, invoice date, invoice number. Now, today we're focusing on non-PO related invoices, but just as a side note, we can also do those shipment invoice receiving transactions or those enter match transactions for the 2- and 3-way PO process. But today it's non-PO related invoices. So once we capture that information, OCR, we populate those profile fields, the document goes through the approval process, and it ultimately ends up here in accounts payable. I call this that last right of refusal. When they look at that, it's gone through the approval process, maybe along the way the GL distribution has been provided, and then all they have to do is hit submit, and PaperSave communicates with Dynamics GP and automatically creates the transaction. So eliminating all of that manual data entry that they're doing. So PaperSave, one piece of software, but 3 separate features or functions: document management, workflow, and automation. And I'm going to take you through a day in the life of an invoice. We're going to walk through capturing, we're going to go through approval, and I'm going to show you the automation piece as well. I like to show this layout of the workflow because I'm one person and I'm really going to be playing all of those roles. So when I tell you I'm in the manager step, you know that the document's been captured, it's been routed to a manager. If I'm the director, that means it exceeded the manager's threshold. And accounts payable, I'm at that last step of the workflow. All right, so we're going to get started. We're going to go ahead and start capturing documents. One of the things that I'm going to mention throughout today are drop points. Drop points are PaperSave way of getting documents in that you can set up. And I mentioned that we can monitor an email address. So if you've got AP invoices at yourorganisationname.com email address already set up, and vendors are sending you their invoices to that email address, well, PaperSave, a drop point can be set up to monitor that email address. And then once we pull that attachment and drop it into the workflow for OCR and approving, we can move that email to the processed folder in your email account, so that they're not being, people aren't wondering, hey, in accounting, has this been touched? PaperSave's going to automatically move it to that process once we capture that attachment. So those are different types of capture methods. Today I can't show you that monitoring of an email address, so I wanted to talk about it. But one of the ways that we do also have to get in documents that come via email is our integration to Outlook. So along the toolbar, you can give anyone the ability to add a document to workflow. Again, today we're focusing on invoices. So let's say that Best Buy actually sent their invoice to H. Condon. Well, H. Condon can say, I want to take this document and I want to add it to the workflow. Now, this is the workflow that I was in. It's the drop point. And all I have to do is pick and choose it. And now that document is on its way. It's going through that OCR, and it's being added to the workflow. Now, one of the rules that you can also have is that if H. Condon is the one that's adding it and she's the manager, instead of it ending up in that king step, it can go directly to H. Condon if there's nothing else that needs to happen to that invoice prior to arriving in her inbox. All right. So that's 2 ways: monitoring the email address, and then we can actually have that integration with Outlook to individuals' Outlook email. I'm going to show you some scanning. That's another way of getting documents in, because if they're not coming to you via email, then they're probably coming to you via fax, and so, or excuse me, via paper. They might still be coming to you via fax, but we can monitor a fax folder as well. But typically they're coming via email and paper. So I'm going to show you scanning, not because scanning is anything special, but because scanning is going to allow me to show you the OCR. Now, PaperSave has different ways to get to the little components within side of the program. I've got pins down here, and I have shortcuts on my desktop. We have an application start page. You might have a dashboard where these are also located. But I'm going to go into PaperSave Scan. I'm using a little scanner hooked up to my workstation. It's a little Fujitsu 7160. We don't require that everyone or anyone has to have a scanner hooked up to their desktop. We can actually leverage multi-function units. However, I will tell you this, those multi-function units, the network, printer, photocopier, fax machine, scanner, scanning is what they do fourth best, right? It's not necessarily what they've been created to do. And so there's some tools that they don't have built right out of the box like a little desktop scanner does. So the little Fujitsu scanner that I have will actually clean up images. If you've got an invoice that's been printed out or produced out onto blue paper, well, if you go and scan that on a multifunction unit, there's going to be some background noise. So OCR is not going to be as accurate when it's on a machine like that. But on a Fujitsu or one of these desktop scanners, they've got tools in there to clean the background noise up. And so you're going to get really good results on your OCR, optical character recognition. So I'm going to go ahead again and pick my workflow. Again, scanning is nothing special. I've taken a stack of documents, I've dropped it in my scanner, and now I'm having scanner issues. That's odd. All right, let's drop my paper in my scanner. All right, there we go. And you should hear it scanning. One of the things that PaperSave does is that it automatically breaks it down into the pages. So I have all single page length documents, but it will look and recognize multiple pages as well. But right down here, you can see that the OCR is working. And as it finds information, it's going to start populating these fields on the right-hand side. And you can see that it's already completed. So if I minimize this toolbar, because I really don't need to see that, I can come down here and I can see that PaperSave has found information on these documents, and it's populated the vendor, the dollar amount, the invoice, and the invoice date. Now, there are some additional things that PaperSave can do as well. For instance, if I tab off of this particular vendor name, it will automatically, because we're so integrated with Dynamics GP, it has pulled the default account number from my vendor card in GP and has populated the distribution table. So it can do that. So if your managers might not be giving you the distribution, it might be coming to them already coded, you can actually have that done here. I also can forward these or sort these out to a manager at this point as well. So now Butler Buckley invoice, it's already ready to go. As soon as I submit these invoices out, all the manager is going to have to do, Quinn, is approve them. But I want to talk a little bit more about the OCR. OCR is great, but it will never be 100% accurate. There are a lot of variables that come into play when you talk about OCR. I talked about one of them, and that's the quality of the image. But one of the things that our tool does is it becomes smarter and smarter the more you use it. So in this case, it didn't find the date, but all I have to do is draw a box around that date. It populates them, and then I can learn this document. So it becomes smarter and smarter the more I use it, meaning the next time I scan in and capture Citrix, it's going to know that, you know what, the date format is a little different, and so I needed to add that to, they're called invoice definitions, add that to that definition, and now it becomes smarter and smarter. Same thing with maybe a dollar amount. In this case, I can just point and click and learn the document. So from this screen, not only did we capture the documents, we corrected any of the issues that the OCR might have had. We've also sorted it, right? I've sent this off to, and I'm just going to play Quinn through this whole demo. We've sorted them to Quinn. We can already do the distribution if we have defaults. We'll just go ahead and send this one off to Quinn as well, and this next one off to Quinn. So from here, I've done the capturing, I've done the correction of the OCR, I've sorted it out to the proper managers, and again, if we do that default from the GL, from the account vendor record, we'll populate that too. So that is all happening as well, not only on these scan documents, but it's also happening, it happened on that Best Buy document, and this is also happening on those documents. So we've submitted those documents into the workflow. So again, some of those documents, if I go back to that workflow and remind you where we are, right? All we've done is captured some documents into the system. We did OCR on them. Some of them might end up in that keying step if it doesn't know which manager to go to. Or again, maybe there's some corrections that have to happen on that OCR. In those other cases that I sorted to Quinn, they're going to end up in Quinn's inbox, a PaperSave workflow inbox. And what happens is now PaperSave, because documents are no longer paper, everyone's going to get an email letting them know that they've got documents sitting in their workflow inbox. So PaperSave's going to send this email out, and it's going to send it out based on how frequently you want it to go out, right? So it can go out daily, hourly, every other day. You determine the frequency, but if somebody has at least one document sitting in their workflow inbox, they're going to get that notification. So I'm going to play Quinn. This actually is an email from my accounts payable person telling them, hey, you've got 3 documents in your workflow waiting for processing. So they can get to their documents and by clicking on one of these hyperlinks. One of the things I do want to mention is that PaperSave does have a mobile app that they can download from the mobile iPhone app or a Droid app that they can download from the App Store, and they can actually approve their documents from their smartphone or their iPad or tablet. So I'm going to play Quinn. So let's just say that this was a Quinn's email and she clicked on this hyperlink. This is the window that's going to pop up. This is Quinn, and I'm going to refresh this because Quinn has 84 documents sitting in her inbox. All right. So she have a very long email. I do a lot more capturing for Quinn than I do actually approval process. But this is the document. She's got 84. They're all listed down below. I don't really want to see that I have 84. It's going to tell me down here. But really, all I have to do is hit this approve or reject if I'm Quinn. But maybe your managers do give you the GL distribution. So they can put in the GL distribution if they want. Again, it's just a click here, and then they can type in the dollar amount, or excuse me, the code, or they can, if they don't know the code off the top of the head, they can click on supplies, and then let's do supplies. Let's try that again, and hit search, and get the list of account codes for supplies. Now, if Quinn is the manager of the sales department, when she types in supplies, you can limit the accounts that she can choose from, right? So in my make-believe world, the 300 series is for sales. So if all she can choose is the sales, then that's the only account numbers that are going to show up. I can also distribute this across multiple account numbers as well. I'm just going to do one for the purpose of this demo today. But really, this is all I have to do is hit approve or reject. All right, so I'm going to hit approve, and I get the next document in the stack. And again, so I had 84. It's giving me now that I have 83, and I'm just going to hit tab, but again, they could approve, put in the GL distribution. There's some other things that can happen along this way as well. They might want to stamp on it, stamp approve, they can draw on it. Maybe you've got a signature, let's take that off. Maybe they've got a signature and they want to put their signature on it as well. If I zoom in on this, one of the things that I want you to see is this is my signature, and it's captured the date and time and my name of the person that signed into this machine. So even though I've signed it with my signature, if somebody else happened to grab that and put that on there, but they're logged in, it's still going to track that their machine, they were the one that was logged in and they were the one who put that on there. And you're going to see this workflow audit log happening as soon as I get to different areas. So that's how easy it is for an individual to approve a document, right? Just hit approve, and I don't have to remember or decide where it goes because the system is going to direct it to the director or accounts payable based on that rule. There's some things also that they can do. If I don't want to see this big long toolbar, I can minimize the toolbar and have a quick access toolbar here with my approval and rejection keys, right? So I can minimize that from here. All right, so we'll pin that back. I also can set my out of office. So if I'm going to be on vacation, so Quinn's going to go on vacation and she's going to return on the 17th, and she's going to send all of her work to Bill. I'm going to put on vacation. If I hit update, all 79 of these documents will be sent over to Bill. Bill will be notified. Not only will he get a really long email and that notification, but there will be a dialog box next to the document, and you'll see this in a second, that says I'm on vacation, and Bill, you've got this work. And anything that is directed to Quinn between now and the 17th, in addition to these 79, will be forwarded to Bill. All right, so that's a nice feature. It eliminates those bottlenecks. All right. Now I'm going to filter because I have the ability to. I'm a power user in my own system, so I'm going to play the director. But just like accounts payable, just like Quinn, the director is going to get their emails as well to notify them that they've got documents. And in this case, the director only has 17, and we're going to work on these that I've been working on just a minute ago. And so what you're going to see is from here, I can now see from Ryan Carr, I can now hit approve or reject. One of the other things from a rejected standpoint, you could be prompted for a comment. And so I will be able to now say, this is not Quinn's, should be Karen's, or something like that, right? So I can hit submit, and now this document is going to go back over to that rejected step, and somebody's going to now manage that and forward it over to Karen. But one of the things that I want you to see is this workflow item history. This is a list of all of the inboxes that this document has landed prior to arriving into my inbox, Ryan's inbox. So again, if this was Bill's inbox, there would be a box identifying that it was in Quinn's inbox, and then it went to forward, and now it's in his. So there's a dialog box, workflow history, that actually shows where this invoice has been prior to arriving in their inbox for work. All right, so we don't need a comment on approval, so we're going to ignore that. All right, so that is workflow, very simple. Once the documents are in the workflow, individuals get their email notification. They come into their workflow by clicking on one of those hyperlinks. They could have it pinned down in their tray or a shortcut on their desktop. We also have a true web enabled HTML approval. If they don't want something on their desktop, they can do it from the web, or they can do it from their mobile phone. But all of these functions are available throughout the all of the different applications in which they can approve a document. All right, so I'm now going to move over to accounts payable, And remember where we've been. If I go back to that workflow, right, we've captured documents. Oh, they were OCR'd. Some might have gone to the keying. I didn't stop in the keying step, but some might have ended up in there. I played Quinn. Quinn approved and reject. Some went over to accounts payable. Some went up to the director. And now I'm down here in that, what I refer to that last right of refusal. I'm in the accounts payable step. AP has 6 documents. These are the 6 that they're listed below. Again, this is that last step for accounting to look at this, at the approval, see who's approved it, right? So I can see that Quinn approved it. I can see that Ryan approved it. And actually, it's not Quinn or Ryan, it's me in both instances because I'm the one that's logged in, right? But it was in their inbox, but I'm the one that performed the action in both sets. The distribution looks good. So now all I have to do is hit submit. I am going to change the invoice number here. And we'll put in today's date just so that I have to change my invoice numbers because GP doesn't want duplicates. Every single one of my invoices are duplicates. So, and PaperSave can check for duplicates before it even gets this far. But if I did that, nothing would end up in my inbox for accounts payable. So I'm going to hit approve. And at that point, or submit, at this exact moment, the transactions are being created in GP and the document is being associated. Now, in my make-believe world, my system puts everything into a batch for today's date. Now, that might not be the way you guys do it, and that's fine. If I selected this, again, I'm still in accounts payable. If I selected all of these and hit submit, PaperSave will ask you, well, what batch do you want these to go in? And maybe you only want, you know, the first 2 to go into a specific batch. It will prompt you for that, giving you a list of the batches that are available within GP, all right? So we've captured documents. OCR happened. They were routed through the workflow for approval. They ended up in accounts payable. We even coded them. Remember, we did do distribution on these as well. And then they ended up in accounts payable and we created those transactions. And this is real time. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to retrieve those documents now. All right. Now there's different ways. I'm in GP. So we're back into document management because we've done the workflow. We did the full transaction automation. We captured documents. That was document management. Now I'm back in document management when I'm going to show you different retrieval. I'm going to go into those transactions that I just created. And I know that you guys are GP experts and there's probably a different way for me to get to those transactions, but I'm going to go this way. And I can open up this transaction and you can see PaperSave created it. It put in the distribution. And then I don't know this bubble right here, if you noticed it when it popped up, but this bubble is PaperSave. And it's going to tell you anytime you go into a transaction or card with inside a GP, if there's a document, this bubble pops up. It's much like an email notification. If I remove my cursor, it will go away. But there's another way to get to the documents. I'll show you that in a second. But I'm going to click on it, and it's going to open up PaperSave. Right? So here I get to see the document. There's my notes. I can see the notes and everything on this. Let's say that Quinn has called up and wanted to see this invoice. She doesn't have access to PaperSave. You haven't given her the rights, although you can, even though she's not a GP user, you can give her rights to that. But I'm going to go ahead and email this out. I'm going to email it as a link. Because she's within inside of our organization, I'm going to send this to Quinn. When I send this over to Quinn, she has in her email a hyperlink to get to the document. All she has to do is click on it. It's going to open up PaperSave, and it's going to show her the same document that I just saw by navigating to the transaction inside of GP. Okay? So that you have the right to allow people to see those documents with inside of your organization. And one of the things that it's doing is it's tracking this audit log too. Not only do we have the workflow approval that shows where the document was through the approval process, but after the document is associated to a transaction in GP, we're going to log what has happened to this. So although it's always me and my username, if Quinn has the ability to save this document or print it, I'm going to save it out on my network drive, or excuse me, out on my desktop here. It's going to track that Quinn also saved that document. Again, it's always me, but track that I printed it and I saved it. All right. So that's an easy way to share information with those non-GP users if you don't want them to have access to the documents. All right. So navigate right to the transaction, open it up, and you can see the document. Now, I mentioned that if you miss that bubble, I also can come up to additional and say show documents. So very easy. Any of those integration points that we had that I showed you, over 70, I can go anywhere within the system to see those documents that are associated to those transactions. PaperSave also has what's called multi-association. Multi-association, the best way that I can describe that is, think about how transactions with inside of Dynamics GP are related to one another. For instance, if you have a payment, you know that there are payables transactions related to that payment as well, right? So if I go into Butler Buckley and I open up this payment transaction, so when I go into Butler Buckley, that bubble popped up. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a bubble over here. And that's, again, PaperSave telling you that there's a check associated to this payment, because PaperSave does have the ability to capture an image of the check back to the payment transaction. But if I know that there are invoice or payables transactions related to this as well, right? Because you have to have payables transactions to create a payment. So with PaperSave, what I can do is I can say show associated documents. And what this is doing is it's going to allow me to now say show associated documents, and I can see that here's the payment, the image of the check, and there are payables and receiving transaction documents as well. So if it's me that's inside a GP that wants to see them, I click on the box and I hit open, and I can flip through them just like a slideshow, right? So I can see the documents. So this is my receiving, and I called this a packing slip. This is my receiving transaction invoice, and I created that invoice. And I know that it's a receiving transaction because of the metadata that PaperSave pulls from the transaction. But it links all of those together in PaperSave. Now, can I go to each individual transaction and see the document as well? Can I go to this payables transaction, see this document, and say show associated, and see the payment of the image of the check? Yes. So it goes both ways, right, in terms of being able to view the documents. And that's called multi-association. So I can go to a specific transaction and see that document. I can say show me associated documents. So if you've got a PO, a receiving transaction, and a shipment invoice, or excuse me, an enter match transaction, and say show me documents, you're going to see all the documents related to those 3 different transactions. And that's, again, our integration. I'm sure you guys all use SmartList, and I'm going to show a SmartList here because PaperSave is integrated with SmartList as well. So I'm going to do a real simple SmartList. I'm going to say, give me all of my invoice transactions that are between a certain dollar amount, 500, and we'll say $1,500. All right. Very simple. You guys know the power behind SmartList. I don't need to tell you that, but let me tell you what PaperSave can do. There's 235 transactions that met that criteria. I hope nobody ever wants to see all of those invoices, but if they did, it's very simple with PaperSave. I come up to additional, I say show documents from this query, and immediately PaperSave opens up. Now, it doesn't open up all of those documents, right? I can flip through them I can filter on any of these columns as well, but if it's me that wants to see them, again, I can flip through them just like I have been, like a slideshow, right? Flipping through them. And every time I do that, PaperSave is creating that audit log that tells you how many times I've looked at a document, right? So I've looked at this one quite often. But let's say Quinn's called up, and Quinn, for whatever reason, wants to see all of these invoices or documents related to these transactions. All right, Quinn, well, I'll give them to you, but let me set some columns first. I do want amount, maybe company name I don't care about, created on, yeah, we want to know who created on, created date. Document type, yeah, okay, let's keep that. Let's keep format, we don't care about format number, we definitely want ID, and we're just going to make this report look a little nicer for her. We know that they are payables transactions, so we don't need that. All right, so now I've changed my columns here. I'm going to export these out into an Excel spreadsheet. What can I do with an Excel spreadsheet? I can share it, right, via as an attachment, email. When Quinn opens this, she's got this nice report. She knows the vendor name, the vendor ID, the dollar amount, descriptions, invoice document number. But then over here on the left-hand side, look what else she's got. A hyperlink right back to the document. So you don't have to pull anything. You don't have to photocopy. You don't even have to email all of those attachments out. You can just say export and let her do the clicking and seeing the document. Of course, she's probably not going to be able to do anything but view it, but that's okay. PaperSave's tracking that as well because she's opened it, right? So that is a simple way to get documents to individuals. If you wanted to share these with somebody outside your organization, you could through that smart list. If I go back here, I could save them and zip the file up. If it's a few, I could email them out. If you want to be able to supply them with an Excel spreadsheet like this, you can set them up as a temporary user in PaperSave and give them the rights. A lot of our customers in the States will do that with our auditors, and they'll come in and they just access the spreadsheet, click on the hyperlink, and see the document. All right. All right, let's close this up. So one last thing I want to talk about, and we'll minimize this. Real quick, I guess two things I want to talk about. I mentioned that we're integrated with Outlook, and I showed you that integration, but we're also integrated with Microsoft Office. So right along the toolbar, I can add this document, this Excel spreadsheet, to an existing transaction if I wanted to. So I can say add document. PaperSave remembers where I've been, but let's add it to a journal entry. So what happens is I come in, PaperSave opens up. It says, well, what journal entry do you want to add this to? And I'm going to say just show all records. And this literally is pulling the the journal entries from your GP system. So let's add it to 1027. I double click on that. PaperSave opens up a window. It inserts this Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to hit save and exit. 1027. Yes, I want to keep the hyperlinks. And now that document, this Excel spreadsheet that I created from a smart list, is now associated to that 1027 journal entry. I don't need to save this. I can close these reports. I'm going to close this. This is my smart list. And now I can go into finance here, go into journal entries, and pull up 1027. And that document now is related to that transaction. And again, PaperSave kept the hyperlinks, so I could click on this and get to those documents right from this Excel spreadsheet. So that's one thing I want to show you. The other thing I want to show you in terms of lookup is what I call finding the needle in the haystack. I used to be an accounts payable clerk many years ago, more than I like to admit, and people would always ask me, hey, where did we buy this product, whatever it was, or I need to order another chair like this, where did we get it? Well, you know, back then I didn't have a very good memory. I don't know, imagine what it would be like now. So what PaperSave has is a search for documents. So what I can do is I can come in here and I can type in wall, I can type in a word, I can type in a number. This is like a Bing or a Google search, and I'm going to just check content. And I'm going to click on Go. PaperSave now has pulled all of the documents that contain the word wall. And if I click on just one of them, you'll see that it found the word wall. Not only did it find the word wall in the products of wall mount, but there happened to be wall in Wallingford, Connecticut. But that is what I, again, call finding that needle in a haystack. And anytime you're at a screen like this, you always have the ability to export these documents out. So if somebody is looking for them or needs to see them and they're not in GP, they have that ability to do that. You have the ability to send that out to them and reproduce. And you can also save these searches as well, so they can become usable over and over again. We also have advanced search. Don't have much time to go into that, but we do have advanced search that allows for you to build, not only take data from GP, so some of the fields that are available in the smart list, and combine that with data that's you're using in the PaperSave profile fields along with content. So that's the search functions within inside of PaperSave. And we can go back. I think I left you with 5 minutes, Michael. So
you sure did, Tammy. Beautifully timed. Thanks for taking us through that. There was obviously a lot of things shown there in a short period of time. Really appreciate it. A couple of things that I certainly like. That search functionality I think is excellent. Yeah, that example you gave there, searching the words within the document, I thought was quite powerful. But I also like that smart list integration piece. I think that validates an earlier comment that we made around genuinely integrating within Dynamics GP, as opposed to just trying to integrate transactions or documents to come through. So it actually becomes effectively natively within GP, which is excellent. And we certainly know how popular Smart List is within the GP community. Exactly. So look, just in the last couple of minutes, I'm conscious of time here, and I see that there were quite a few questions that came through. What I'd like to do is suggest that we collate all of those questions, because I think there's quite a few relevant for everyone, and we'll send out a little question answer piece as part of the follow-up. So in the email that we send out, thanking you for your attendance with a link to the recording, we'll actually answer all of those questions within that email as well for everyone. But Tammy, if you don't mind, there's a couple that stood out or was common questions, common themes. A question on GST: can we handle GST?
Yes. In fact, that was one of the things that we worked with your team at PA to make sure that PaperSave has that ability before we even brought it to market with you all. So yes, PaperSave can.
And it was one of those comments that we had between us. We called it a showstopper.
Showstopper, that's right. It was a showstopper. If we couldn't do that, if we couldn't do it, you guys weren't going to work with us. So
that's right. We said it in a nice way, but yes.
Yes, you did.
We're very, very clear on that one. And look, just one other question. It's version specific. So we have clients running different versions of GP. Is there a version compatibility scenario here that we need to be aware of?
Yes, so we are compatible with GP 2010 and higher.
Okay,
so all the way through 8.
Yeah, so from 2010, so that'd be 2013, 2015, 2016, 2018.
2018, yep, and then we will be compatible with D365 Business Central. I think that's what they're referring to it as. Yep.
Yes, yeah, so yeah, yep. So that's good to know as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so from version 2010 and above.
Correct.
So look, excellent, thank you, Tammy. So as I mentioned, we'll collate all those questions. There were some really good questions in there, very specific to transaction flow and splitting that distribution there as well, which are really good questions, but relevant for everyone. So we'll collate those, and we'll actually send those through to everyone as part of the follow-up. Just before we go, I'd also just like to make note of a little unrelated item, although it was advertised in our newsletter. We've received some feedback regarding our most recent newsletter that it appeared in some recipients' junk box. Now, we certainly don't think that it's junk. There's some great content in there, and this particular webinar was advertised in that newsletter. So if you haven't received our newsletter, please go and take a look in your junk box or your focus inbox. The way Outlook now may be displaying that, it might be in your focus inbox. So you would have received it from Professional Advantage Newsletter. The email address is newsletter@pa.com.au. So just if you haven't received our newsletter, just take a look there. If you take a look there and you can't find it and you haven't received it at all, just let us know and we'll forward through a copy to you straight away. So on that note, I'd just like to say a final thank you to Tammy for joining this session and presenting to us today. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. As I mentioned, we will send through a follow-up with details on the recording and more information regarding PaperSave. As part of this process, we will of course follow up with you, and we'd love to have a further conversation with you about how PaperSave can help your particular requirements and extend your GP solution. You can definitely talk to your account manager about this as well, and we will follow up with you individually to continue conversations around PaperSave, document management, and AP automation. So thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk to you at a webinar again soon. Bye, everyone.